One of the ongoing controversies in firearms training is how do we deal with this whole issue of stress? That is, we know that a survival situation, a self-defense shooting for instance, is going to be a highly stressful event. And your body has a reaction to stress. It changes in certain ways. Some things become possible, some things become impossible under stress. So trainers for decades have gone about this question of, well, do we teach the kind of finer skills that may not hold up under stress under the belief that it's better than teaching nothing, or other trainers have come to the conclusion that we should only teach those skills that are really possible under stress because that's all you can really do, so we should hone those skills. And this controversy hasn't ever really resolved itself. However, we do believe there is a way to look at the situation that allows both sides to be partially right. We do know that the more stress you're under, the less control you're going to have. And that's just true for everybody. The question is, what does the curve look like? For an untrained person, for your average person, the curve, let's assume, looks something like this. That is, the more stress you're under, the more you go in this direction, the less control you have. So the more stress, the less control, and the curve looks something like this. Now it may not be a straight line, who cares? The point is more stress, less control. We also know that you can inoculate people to stress. You can familiarize them to the stress so that they maintain more control under the same level of stress. So for instance, under this level of stress, your untrained person may have only this amount of control, whereas your trained person, represented by the blue line, may have that amount of control. And that's the whole point of training. The whole point of training is to shift this stress control curve to the right. So that the more stress you're under, the more control, or for the same amount of stress that you're under, the more control you have compared to someone with less training. So when we look at it in this light, we can say, well, what about, point shooting versus sighted shooting, or gross motor skills versus fine motor skills? Well, a person that shoots very efficiently, say with their sights or with fine motor skills, will probably do fine so long as the amount of stress they're under doesn't exceed the amount of stress that degrades those skills. And the more training they have, the more they've inoculated themselves, to that level of stress, the more those skills are going to hold up. So that's really the answer. It's not that all skills fall apart, that everybody defaults to the grossest, lowest level of skills. It depends on your level of training. And that's the reason we train, is so that we can shoot and defend ourselves with more efficient skills under the level of stress that will occur in a situation. Now, that being said, we certainly do know that even the most highly trained person can come under enough stress so that their skills seriously degrade, because there's certainly copious examples of that. So which brings us back to the point that we probably need to train with both kinds of skills, with the fine skills and the gross skills. For instance, with sighted shooting and unsighted shooting. Because you never know that despite your training, the situation you find yourself in might exceed the level of stress that you've been exposed to, and you're going to have to fight with those primitive skills, even though you hope that you've exposed yourself to enough stress in training that you can rely on more efficient skills.